tell us just what you know. You growed up around in that area over there, pretty close to Cedar Grove, I think, back in your.
Yeah, I grew up at where Neil Latham lives, where I grew up there on that farm. Well, turn it off for a little bit and let me think here what we're doing. I was saved in Old Hickory in a tent revival that went on 42 nights. And there were 100 or more people saved in this revival. And they organized a church coming out of the revival, though I didn't become a part of that. And they baptized 72 people out in Stone River on one Sunday afternoon. And that bridge going across Stone River was lined with people watching the baptismal service. And two preachers were baptizing. One would baptize one, and when he brought him up, then the other would baptize one. And so I then joined Old Hickory First Baptist Church after Mary and I married. And we started going together in this tent revival that I was saved in. And then we moved to Kentucky and started Cedar Grove Baptist Church is where I grew up there at Cedar Grove. And we started going there, and I was elected as Sunday school superintendent. And then Brother Marsh was the pastor there, and the Lord called me to preach. And so I entered the ministry, announced my call on the second Sunday in July. And that'll be 50 years this July. And Mount Tabor asked me to come to Mount Tabor the fourth Sunday in July and preach in a revival. And this revival began on Sunday night, went through the next Sunday night, through the next Sunday night, and Tuesday night of the third week. And the only reason that it closed then, the associational meeting, was meeting there on Wednesday and going through Friday. So they had 3-day associational meetings back then. And we had somebody saved in just about every service in that revival at Mount Tabor. And I didn't have any sermons piled back. I've got thousands of them back here on file now. And I preached the afternoon service and then back at night. And when the revival service be over in the afternoon, sometimes it is 4 o'clock or 4:30, maybe 5. We're supposed to go somewhere to eat the evening meal and be back at 7 o'clock for the evening service. And I like to wore the wood, the leaves and the logs off of those hills around Mount Tabor. When the service over, I took off the wood study for the evening service. And anyway, Brother Marsh was the pastor. And he told me after the revival was over, said, Brother Roy, said, you'll never forget how the Lord helped you in this revival. And I never have forgotten it, never will as far as that, because I'd never done any well, I'd only preached 2 sermons before that revival started, and I preached evening and night, and we'd have testimony meeting every evening and afternoon, and many of the nights. And 2 different afternoons I didn't get to preach because the testimony meeting went on so long, gave invitation to people were saved without a sermon being preached other than the testimony. And of course all of those elderly people that lived around there then and attended church are gone now, of course, have died. And back then the ladies out in the rural section didn't have jobs like they do now somewhere in town and so on. And so the afternoon service was just the church full of people. Children and the women and men too would leave the field and come into the revival, you know. And now you can't hardly have a day service because people are working, you know, and women working as well as the men away from home. And so I've been back there for, I reckon, 2 revivals since then. But anyway, I did my first preaching at Mount Tabor Baptist Church, and it was a great time. And Brother Powell lived right in front of the church up there. I can't call his name.
Mr. Lucian.
Lucian Powell was leading the singing. And before the revival was over, why, he was getting tired and working and coming every night. And he got sleepy one night and went to sleep while I was preaching. And so I called for the invitation song, and he was sitting there sleeping, didn't hear me, and I told some of them to wake him up so we could have the invitation. It really did embarrass him, but anyway, we had the invitation then.
Can you remember who played the organ?
No, I don't. I don't remember who played the organ. Mrs. Sears played 2 or 3 different nights during that revival, but I don't remember who the main one was that played the organ.
Was that in 43? When this revival you're talking about?
Yeah, it would have been 43. 42 or 3.
Okay, they had the 100th anniversary. I can remember that. I was just a little boy, but I can remember when they had the 100th anniversary, and they said they had the association meeting there and everything that same time.
Is that right? Yeah. Well, anyway, the associational meeting met there, and there were a pulpit committee from Homer, which was Bethlehem Church then. It's not there now. There, and some of them told them, this pulpit committee, that I'd preach through this revival and what a revival we had. And they asked me to come over and preach, and they called me, and Clifty called me, and Concord called me. So in a month, or 6 weeks at least, I was pastoring 3 churches, and they were all quarter time back then, of course. And so I've been in the ministry ever since full time. Almost since I'd retired. Now, I don't know if there's anything else you want to ask me about Mount Tabor. I just can't think of the things back there.
When you went there, the first time you went, you remember what kind of, if it had Cadillacs or Lincolns or
buggies or
horses?
They had horses and buggies and a few Model Ts and a few later Model N Model Ts, but of course about 30 models back then of cars.
There's a lot of trees around the church then.
Oh yeah.
That's what they tied the horses to.
Yeah, the yard was full of trees and shade everywhere. And
it was just one kind of a square. It wasn't a square, but no Sunday school rooms and no nothing built on it, just one room.
Church building was the only thing there then.
Wouldn't happen to take a picture back then, did you?
No, we didn't.
Well, nobody did. I don't reckon we can't get a picture of the
we'll
church
keep
back
trying to
then.
find
It had
one.
two single doors in front,
We
just like you got, about the same width as your
Yeah.
house door. There was just 2 front ones,
Yeah.
Big old long center.
and had 2 big rocks, like you kind of put in a fireplace, that whatever they call that, jam rock or whatever, it goes across a fireplace, a grate. It seemed like that's what they had for a doorstep.
It was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It was.
And didn't have any electricity. It had, I believe, it's pump up lights, gas
It's
lights.
kerosene.
Yeah, that you pumped up, and it had a little bulb in there that gas came up and burned that. They'd have to light those, have to pump them up during service sometime. And everybody had a fan, and the
Yeah, I remember things.
funeral homes furnished the
Yeah.
fans. They'd bring 100 fans out to church, with their names on them for the people. They'd sit there and fan while I preached. And I'll never forget one boy, I can't call his name, he was a grown young man. And he was talking in the windows. Of course, all the windows up and people outside, and the house full, and men hanging in the window. When service going on, a lot of times, And this boy was courting a girl in the window. Now this is before service started. And we'd had prayer meeting down outside the church, before service every time in Elwood Woods. I came by and just tapped him on the back of the head, just pushed his head right over in this girl's face, Well, I laughed at him, it like tickled him to death that I did that, The next night he was sitting about 2 seats from the back. The next night he was about halfway up, and the next night is just 2 seats from the front. And when the invitation's given, he just come over the seats and didn't come out to the altar to be saved. And that just teasing him won his confidence some way, and the Lord saved him.
You don't remember who that was?
No, I don't. I don't remember who he was. But anyway, that we had a lot of people saved during that revival. The twin girls, I can't think of their names. Both of them were saved. Oh, I can't think who they are.
What year was that now?
Well, that was the first year when I was into the ministry.
43?
Yeah.
They're not twins. Linda and Sue were only twins. They weren't even 4 years
That's
old.
right.
How old of people were they?
They were just
Teenagers? Or?
yeah, early teens, or 12, 13, somewhere along
Gula
there.
and Gilly's twins, but they got brothers for twins.
No, these are girls.
Yeah, these were girls. I believe one of them still living, the other one's dead, I think. But I can't think of call their names.
I'm not thinking either right now.
She'll think of it tomorrow or next week.
Yeah. Now, any other questions? I'll just run out, I guess.
That's quick done, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
you
Then
think you can think of a whole lot to say, but then when you get talking, you just,
Well, no, you said a whole lot.
yeah, appreciate
well,
that.
you take 50 years, it's just been about 50 years ago. And
Well, was you there the night that we had 17 preachers?
no,
I remember a revival. It was on a Monday night. And I don't know who was carrying on the revival or anything. And I just wondered if it was you or if somebody else.
I don't remember that. Of course, there were preachers came just
Yeah.
about every night, but I don't remember
It come up a
17.
big storm. It rained. It thundered. You know, and it had 17 preachers though.
Yeah, 17.
First night of the revival.
Yeah.
Can you remember Brother Mac Rice or
Oh yes, I was with him.
Brother Browning or
I was with Brother Rice in revival there one time after that. And of course, Brother Browning, I preached his funeral, you know, when he died. He did a thing that I'd never heard of before or since. He had me named in his will to preach his funeral, Brother Browning did.
Well,
And I preached his funeral at Cedar Grove Church when he died.
I can remember him, but you know I never heard him preach. He would, I guess he done maybe got too old, disabled, whatever. But I can see him now. He was a big man, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, and had a voice
Maybe
like
because
a
I was so
lion.
little, but he looked big to me.
He was a big fella.
But I've never heard him preach any.
Yeah, he really did get up and preach. The last thing that I remember of him before he died was at the association meeting at Cave Spring, and he got up and made a talk about something, I don't remember what, and he just, of course he couldn't talk without preaching, you know, too, and he just walked back and forth across the front. Some fella sitting down right on the front, and he just went by and he reached over and popped him on the knees, you know, just talking right in his face as he's talking to everybody. People got tickled, but he was really wound up, and he was really talking when he, on whatever subject it was. But Brother Browning could really preach.
Can you remember any ordination services you might have been in at Mount Tabor?
I'm not too sure whether and I think I was in John Ewan Craig's ordination, but I don't really believe it was. I think he was already preaching. Yeah, I know he was. He's preaching before I entered the ministry. But I remember John Ewan was ordained there at Mount Tabor, and he told me when they were getting ready to ordain me about questions that he was asked. And somebody asked the question in his ordination service, how do you know the Lord called you to preach? He said, well, I didn't hear the Lord like I hear you talking. But he said, the Lord laid his hand on me so heavy, I could not get out from under it, and I had to preach. And that he said, the Lord called me to preach just by putting his hand on me and wouldn't let go. said I didn't hear him talking, just like, of course, somebody's trying to get him to say he'd heard him or something, I don't know. And that's what he said about him. But when it comes to entering the ministry, of course, I had just entered the ministry when I preached in that revival there. And I'd been fighting the call for 3 years before I entered the ministry, and teaching a Sunday school class and directing the Sunday school at Cedar Grove before I started teaching the class. And then the Lord called me to preach. And Brother Morris was pastor at Cedar Grove and Mount Tabor at the same time back then, when I entered the ministry. Well, I guess I've been
Now, what
right.
kind of advice would you give young people? Now, this will be for them for Mount Tabor's young people.
Mount Tabor had some fine young people back then, and of course I've preached there and been interim there, and Mount Tabor has always had some fine young people. There are people that, there are a lot of stable homes in that community, and there are fine young people there, and of course they're like the young people everywhere. They are confronted with so many things, and they've had some problem, as young people everywhere, you know, by the things that have been presented to them, but they've always come through. As far as I know, they've really been a fine group of young people. And I'd like to encourage them just to continue living for the Lord and give their lives to the Lord, because they're not only the church of tomorrow, but the young people are the church of today. Mm-hmm. And I've said this many times, we need the wisdom of the elderly people, and we need the vision of the young people. And if you take the wisdom of the elderly people and the vision of the young people, elderly people, we have a tendency to live yesterday, you know. Young people have a vision tomorrow. And if you put the two together and let them work together, you have a team that the devil can't stop. And it's been said that the young people keep the elderly people from drying up, and the young people, keep the young people keep the elderly people from drying up, and the elderly people keep the young people from blowing up.
Never heard of that.
That's good.
That makes sense.
And so you put the two together, and you really got a team that the devil can't stop. And it always pays to work with the young people. There's one thing about it, you're a lot of times working with young people and you think, well, they're not listening, they're not paying any attention. But yet tomorrow they'll rise up and call you blessed for everything you invest in them. Mrs. Sears was teaching a vacation Bible school group of intermediates in Bible school. One girl in the class that, she just cut up, you know, she's heavy, a giggler, you know, giggled a lot. Mrs. Sears gave her an assignment for the commencement, and she took the missionary journeys of Paul and got up before that whole church, and I mean, she just clipped off everything right on through, didn't miss a thing. Well, you thought, Mrs. Sears thought she wasn't getting anything out of the Bible school, maybe, but she was, you see. And now she's working here in town and married and got some children. And so you never know when you're investing in young people what they're going to do.
Maybe she wants to say something about Mount Tabor. See if she's got anything she wants to talk about.
You got anything you want to say about Mount Tabor?
I don't know something. I don't really know what you said. I haven't heard all that you said.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to be totally deaf. I went to Dr.
Shay?
Shea in Memphis, and he said that if I didn't stay out of noises, that I would be totally deaf. And I can find that I am just going totally deaf. And you can't stay out of noises. You can't live in this world now and stay out of noises.
We don't go to singings Not that we don't enjoy it, but the music's usually so loud she can't stand it. She has to walk out. We missed a lot of good singings that we would have enjoyed, but she just can't take that. If they didn't turn the music up too loud, why, she could.
We've enjoyed Laura's ministry though. Laura's been so good to us. People have been good to us. And we've just really enjoyed it.
Go ahead and say it again. Go ahead and say it again. Say what you said again.
Oh, we have enjoyed Roy's ministry because the Lord's been good to us and the people have been good to us. And so we've just thoroughly enjoyed the ministry. And we still are enjoying the ministry too.
Yeah, I enjoy preaching as much as I ever did, but I know I'm slipping a lot. At least
I hear you on the radio whenever you fill in for somebody on the radio.
yeah, I'll be on the radio one Wednesday in next month. I don't remember which it is, but I will be again. I'll be preaching at the church where the pastor has the Wednesday's program, and he'll be out of town.
You know, when you was, last time you was in on that Tabor, you'd had some surgery, or was going into surgery. I think we had to wait a week or two there while you underwent surgery before you could,
I don't know whether that is when I had the hernia surgery or cataract surgery. I don't remember.
must have been hernia.
I didn't miss.
It was just a week or two there.
I think it was the cataract surgery because I was interim pastor at Liberty when I had the hernia surgery. I had cataract surgery on the left eye. Might have had to miss a Sunday or two preaching, I don't know for sure. Oh, I like to think about Miss Lonnie Blake. Y'all remember her?
Miss Looney?
Yeah.
I can, and Mr. Jess,
Yeah. Uncle Jess, they called him.
I can kind of see them now. They've been, I guess they've been dead for years.
Yeah, they have. Anyway, when we had testimony meeting, everybody always waited for her, seems like. Because she could just bring heaven and earth together giving her testimony. And her brother, was he a Pogue? Yeah. I can't think of his
What?
given name.
Yeah, was it Gaither, was it?
Yeah, Gaither
Their
Pogue.
sisters and brothers?
Gaither Pogue, he gave a testimony that was always good.
Yeah, sure was.
Really good. I'll tell you, those testimony meetings back then just carried the revival through. A lot of times. They really were good. And we had people saved those 2 afternoons that I didn't preach. Went through the service with a testimony meeting. The Spirit got so high, it just gave invitation, and people were saved.
Can you remember Tabor School that sat across the road?
I remember the old school building sitting over there, but there wasn't any school there, I don't think then. I don't remember if so.
When the revivals went on during school time, the teacher always let out every evening, afternoon, and we'd go over there to the revival.
Yeah. I don't believe they were having school there then, but if so, school was out because this was in July. Now school might have been going on at.
Yeah, about 50, 51 was the last year they had a school there.
Yeah, well, I know the building was there, yeah. Where I grew up over at, where Neil Latham lived, and we went to Carter Springs School. And when the revival was going on down at church, they'd always dismiss and go to the revival every afternoon. School did. I'll never forget one boy, several of the school children being saved. One old boy, he's a pretty good sized boy, I guess, 12 to 14 years old. He laughed one day, said, "They're not gonna get me down there," and the next day, there he was on the altar praying to be saved.
The Lord got a hold of him, ain't he?
Yeah, the Lord got a hold of him. And, they wouldn't allow that now to dismiss school or go to revival.
No, they won't even let them pray in school or even read scripture
No.
now.
They've changed the baccalaureate service where the students can carry it on, but can't no preacher go in there.
They had baccalaureate out at, well, can't even call where I preached yesterday out here. Center last night, and I preached. They had recognized all of the children that were graduating, we'll say, from kindergarten on up through high school, and then gave them recognition.
That's nice.
And then I had the privilege of preaching to the whole church. I enjoyed that. I don't know if they did or not, but I did.
I
Well, that
imagine
was
they did.
nice.
Well, they said they did, yeah. Then they had refreshments afterward. Well, if I'd have known what you were coming for, I might have could have thought of a lot of other things written down, you know, to go over, but that's just, I just run out.
Oh, well, you've been a great help to us.
Yeah,
I mean,
appreciate it.
enjoyed.
Appreciate it.
I enjoyed that. We
Yeah,
wanted to get, because everybody around our loved you and wanted to get you on our history.
We're gonna take all these tapes, and of course, there's some of the things we're, you know, can cut out.
Oh, yeah.
Won't need everything, but we wanna. It'd be good if we could get it all on one tape.
Oh,
For
yeah.
6 hours or 6 hours and a half on one of these tapes, and
Mhm.
of course, depends on how many families we talk to, but
Yeah.
we'd like to get it all on one tape, and then wanna, you know, give a tape to each family.
Each family.
Yeah.
And if we could, if we just thought of this, well, just 5 or 10 years ago, we could
Yeah.
call some people that
Yeah.
could give us a whole lot of information.
Yeah, you could have got some former pastors. I guess you've already talked to JR.
No,
he's-
we had got,
we're going
Right.
to.
we got to him yet.
The JR can give you a whole lot.
Yeah, I believe he could.
Yeah. JR really was good for Mount Tabor Church. Really was. He's coming on up pretty close to retirement. I don't know when he's going to retire, not too long.
I figure maybe this fall he's about to get his house built, so
Yeah.
I figure maybe he might this fall. I don't know. You knew they was building him a new home.
Yes, we've been by several times. Haven't pulled into it, but we've seen it everything.
I've not been over.
Pretty location.
Mayor and I talked about it though. When we were coming up to retirement, we discussed it like this. If she was left, would that be a good place for her to be left? And if I was left, what about me? Would that be a good place for me to be left? And so there are several places that we liked, as long as we were both together. But one day we may not both be together, you know. And so we vote over there on the hill, at Alner's Hill, you know, by Ed Stratton, and that is a good place, but the house was quite a distance even from neighbor on each side. And then the yard was so big, it was 317 feet road frontage, and then 8 acres going back.
Thought that was too much.
I thought that'd be too much for her or for me, either one, to keep up, you know.
You didn't have time to raise any tobacco on it, did you?
And so we bought this and then sold that over there.
Well, I like here. This is
Oh,
great.
we really enjoyed it
Good
here.
place.
Really enjoying it. We'll let you see the house before you leave and then see the back too. I did have a garden back there, but I got too lazy to raise a garden.
What preacher we have when we, you know, I was over here a few years ago. 2 or 3 of us came over here. Don't remember what the occasion was. One, 2 or 3 or 4 hours. I don't know. Johnny might have been with us.
I think that is when maybe you were talking to me about being interim pastor.
Might have been, we might not have had a preacher with us. You might have been in the bunch. Was you?
No, that's the first time you've been
I
here.
believe it's the first time I've been here.
There's about 4 of us.
I believe that's, you came over here to talk to me about.
You know Darrell Ray Greenfield?
Oh, yeah.
Was he in the bunch?
I believe he was. I'm not too sure that he was, but I believe he was.
Sure is pretty.
We sleep back where we don't hear it at night.
Oh, you do?
That's a loud one.
Yeah, you can cut the noise down where it doesn't make as much noise when it strikes.
Uh-huh.
Sitting in here is pretty loud. We were,
Those weights and things, is that what makes it run?
yeah, they'll come on down to
And you gotta pull a chain and get it back up there?
pull it back up, yeah. We were, I don't know, this is in the fall, and of course Mary teaching school and me being in the ministry, people are giving us everything, you know, and we have a hard time thinking of anything we can buy each other for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were walking in the mall one day, and they had these clocks sitting out. We said, there, we'll buy that as our Christmas present between us. So we stopped and went in and talked to them about it, and we put a deposit, $50 deposit down on it, and told them we'd pick it up a certain day in December. So we went back by and picked it up. So we bought that before we moved over on the hill.
Uh-huh. Well, let's see.
And I bought her these marble top tables for
I like
Christmas.
them.
Yeah,
One
pretty.
at a time other than these two. I bought both of them. Cause I could spread out something for the next Christmas, you know.
Pretty.
I mean, you're running in Sunday school now at Mount Tabor.
See we?
I had 129
Nine.
129 yesterday, 130 the Sunday before.
Dropped off one.
We lost one yesterday, 130 a week ago yesterday, 129 yesterday.
Yeah, well, that's good. I don't know that I've ever heard your pastor preach.
He's good.
He's a good one.
Good.
He's old fashioned.
Yes.
That's why.
Yeah, he said last night, said he just old-timey, old-fashioned preacher. He
Got
is.
no time for liberals, and I agree with him there.
Me too.
He's really good.
Yeah, that's good.
He's
He
what you
preaches
call
the
a
Bible
conservative.
just like it says it, you know. He don't butter it up or anything like that.
And he uses it too.
Yeah.
He sticks with it.
Well, that's what people need, and that's what to go to church for, to get
Right.
the truth.
Yeah, we had one join the church to be baptized yesterday, and one came by later.
Is that right? Yeah. Would be anybody I know, either one of them?
Well, I don't know if you know Geneva Dunn and Norris Wayne. It was
Their daughter-in-law
yeah, their daughter-in-law
Is that right?
and her son.
and her son.
He's, I guess he's what, 13, 14?
He's 13.
13. It'd be good if you got a Sunday open sometime, just you can go that far, just drive over and listen to him. I believe
Well, I go that far, just got back from Champaign, Illinois.
drive yourself.
Oh, we go everywhere all the time. We drive 20-something thousand miles a year. We go to the mall somewhere every day and walk 3 miles.
I was gonna ask you, did y'all still go and walk?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we went to Bowling Green Mall and walked today.
You still
No.
look just about like you did the first time I saw you.
Oh, thank you. We went to Clarksville Mall today. We like to eat at Sadie's over there.
Uh-huh.
Over at Clarksville.
Yeah, it's mall there.
Governor Square?
I've heard them talk about it, but I've never eaten there.
It's, you just help yourself. It's a cafeteria where you just go right in, smorgasbord.
Mm-hmm.
Got everything you can eat and just
Get what you want.
get what you want and go back and fill up again if you need to, and got all kinds of desserts, pies and cakes, and
Hmm.
puddings and ice cream and
I've eaten
yogurt.
there one time. 3 of us, me and 2 more that work with, went over there for, well, you know where train is?
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Mhm.
Of course, just across the road.
Yeah.
We went over there one time, eat.
Yeah.
I guess they got 50 desserts, 50 or more pies, cakes, all kinds of sweetening,
Oh,
all
yeah.
kinds of ice cream.
You can make up your own Sunday any way you want it.
They're putting up new buildings all up and down through there every day. There's 4 or 5 new places going up now.
Yeah.
Some of them we don't know that don't even have a sign. One's a miniature golf course,
Yeah.
and Sam's wholesale. You know, it's one at Nashville or somewhere around Goodlettsville. It's fixing to be one there because they got a sign up that says future home of Sam's wholesale or Sam's whatever.
That's right.
Across from over in front of Governor Square Mall.
Yeah. Well, the boot plate's gone out of business, or is going out over there.
Yeah, they're going to Mexico.
Yes.
That's a shame.
It is.
There's about 800 or 900 people there that's going to be affected.
Yeah. They were having a boot burning over there somewhere, and going to burn a lot of boots. People that owned their boots, you know, that they bought and hadn't been wearing them, going to have a boot burning in protest of going to Mexico.
Well,
Mexico can get the cheap labor, you see.
Well, you're getting along pretty good with your history of the church.
we're doing very well, but not like we'd like to.
There's a whole lot of work and a whole lot of digging into a lot of things.
All right. We can't find nothing. You know, what was it, 1843?
Mhm.
And so, from 1843 to 1909.
8 or 9, 10 long in there is
It's
nothing.
nothing. I mean, we can't find anything.
Can't find any records of,
Not yet,
Sure.
we haven't.
See, the church was moved where it's at now in 1908.
oh,
It was out on what they call Rattlesnake Road, about a mile out on the little road. And we get on top of the hill, turn left.
yeah.
It was about a mile or so out there.
Tuckertown.
On Tuckertown Road, they call it the Rattlesnake Road now, but anyway, it was out there, the second place, and further on back from there,
Tucker
it was-
Ridge.
that's where it was originally built. We don't know what year it moved from there to where it was before it come where it's at now.
Yeah.
Nobody
What's
knows
that
what
now?
time it was moved from Tucker Ridge out there, so. Or even got a picture of it. All I know was it was a log structure, you know, built on Tucker Ridge. You know, that's all the book gives on it.
Yeah.
Now the location and, you know, all that we don't have.
They came from Nashville, talked to us, working up a history on the church where I pastored in Nashville. Oh, it's been some time ago, and the growth of it and everything. When it started, and of course I was there. Well, they called me when they organized over there. And of course they had a mission pastor before they organized. And then all of the growth in the building and so on.
Well, what I've been wondering if they kept, like they do now, minutes and things, back then, or look, you know, if they did, we can't find nothing like that.
Nobody's got it.
We have a fellow in our church that came from Indiana, he and his wife, and belonged to a church up there. They went back through the minutes of this church up there, and way back, and minutes gave every Sunday. Of course, they just had quarter time preaching back when this was going on. And the offering for that day, nary cent.
That sounds about like back then, don't it?
Yeah, I was up in Indiana, said nary cent.
I know we went and interviewed a guy the other night. He said he remembered a preacher walking from Lewisburg to Tabor for 60 cents. That's what they paid him, you know.
60 cents a month.
That's a long walk.
Yeah, it is.
A person really has to be dedicated to do that, though.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
He'd
it
leave
was,
Saturday, it'd take him, I guess, all day and part of that night walk from Lewisburg over there. That's a long distance.
Yeah, it is.
I don't see how he walked it.
Had to be dedicated.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'd heard them talk about back in those days that sometimes they'd give the preacher a chicken or a piece of meat or a pair of socks and so on like that. And